Well, meanwhile, the Trump administration is expressing confidence that the health care bill will pass after issuing an all-or-nothing ultimatum to Congress.
Major Garrett is following all of the action at the White House. So, Major, President Trump is telling Congress either pass the bill or stick with Obamacare. He's sort of attacking the Freedom Caucus on Twitter. Politically speaking, how big of a gamble is this for him?
The biggest of his presidency, and it is part of what some here at the White House argue is a decisive action on the part of this president to call the question, to call the vote and say, look, we could continue to talk and talk and talk and talk, but senior administration officials tell me this president's decided those conversations, while they've achieved some important changes to the bill, are beginning to move in a circular direction, that the conversation will never end and the votes will never manifest themselves. Not all the members of the Republican conference in the House will be completely satisfied. So what he's trying to look for is a clarifying moment. Here's the roll call vote. Here's the question. Are you with me or are you against me? Now, the White House wants to describe that as decisive. It could also be fairly described as impatient, because the legislative process is a complicated and cumbersome process. It does take time, and building a durable coalition in the House is essential for this legislation to have a chance of succeeding in the Senate. And both parts have to work together, and becoming impatient with one chamber, the House, before you've even gotten to the Senate, may in the end be a strategy that blows up in this president's face, at least politically. But he has said, I'm tired of waiting. I'm going to move on. And as Congressman Harper referred to, if this vote is called and it goes down, the legislative maneuvering on replacing Obamacare essentially evaporates. You don't have a legislative structure to carry a replacement and a repeal of Obamacare to the Senate without needing 60 votes. And that means the Affordable Care Act stays. And that's why this White House has laid that question before House Republicans. Do you want to repeal it or not? That's really the only question before you. And that's the one that the White House has called for today. It's worth pointing out that no president can call a vote in Congress. Only Congress can decide whether to call the vote. Speaker Ryan is at least rhetorically willing to do that, but until that vote is scheduled, we don't know if it's going to occur.
So the president sent Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, and the Budget Director Mick Mulvaney down to Capitol Hill last night to make their final pitches. Do we know anything about how those meetings went?
It wasn't really about a final pitch. It was about this ultimatum. And the reason all three went to the Capitol together was it's not unreasonable for Republicans to wonder with whom they're actually negotiating in this White House, because there are different power centers. Steve Bannon, very populist, hardcore conservative senior advisor, is one power center. Reince Priebus, the Chief of Staff, is another power center. Mick Mulvaney, the Budget Director, is also a power center, and he's a former member of the House of Representatives who knows almost all the Republicans. He's a credible voice talking to them about policy and politics. So all three were sent up there at exactly the same time to deliver the same message. If you guys, meaning the moderates, the conservatives, and the fence-sitters, want to get together and have some other meeting and solve something yourself, fine. But we're done offering new ideas, or we're done listening to new ideas. The bill is written. You're going to have to vote. And don't call this White House looking for an alternative opinion. This is the unified opinion of the president. He wants you to move, and the ball is essentially in your court.
Major, let me ask you, you've been covering President Trump since he was candidate Trump. You've covered the White House for many, many years. Many of the reasons why people voted for President Trump was the fact that he considered himself a negotiator, and at the end of the day, when a deal is on the table, he considers himself as a closer. If this doesn't go through, who is more hurt credibility-wise? Is it the president as the image that he's portrayed to the American people, or will his supporters turn on those congressmen who did not support him?
So the president is betting that he will not take the brunt of the fallout if this fails, that it will be the system, the Washingtonians, the swamp dwellers, if you will, even if they're Republicans. Because this president ran as the Republican nominee, but he did not run in any way, shape, or form like a classical Republican or as a party guy, as an institutionalist, as an establishmentarian with a long history in the Republican Party. He ran against a lot of those very definitional aspects of Republican Party politics. So he's betting, and those around him are betting, look, if this goes south, it'll be the system, it'll be the Republican Congress, those individual members who will be blamed, not you, because you had tons of meetings here at the White House. You brought every constituency in. You talked to them for days upon days upon days, changed the bill 3 or 4 times. You've done all you can do. But that's a risky gamble because, as you said, Vlad, this president told supporters around the country, I'm not only a deal maker, I'm an action-oriented president, and I can go to Washington and shake this system up and get my party and maybe some Democrats, but not in this case, but my party to work with me and create big solutions that you'll be very pleased with. I'm the deal maker. Well, he's at the moment now where he's telling House Republicans the deal is in front of you. And if you walk away, I'm going to blame you, and my voters will as well. House Republicans may reasonably turn to their constituents and say there's only one president. There's only one chief negotiator, and he's the one who walked away from the table. And if this goes down, those recriminations will be the busiest part of Washington's weekend ahead.
Indeed. Major Garrett, thanks a lot.
Sure.